Hello everyone, this is Mansi from the Department of CSE AI. From Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering. So, today's topic we will learn about classes and objects in Java. So, what are classes and what are objects in Java? When we talk about Java, Java follows the concept of OOPS, that is object oriented concepts. In OOPS, one of the most important concept is classes and objects. In the next slide, we will learn more about the classes and objects. So let's take an example. So suppose we have a building here. So let's consider this building. For constructing this building, we require some sort of plan or some sort of blueprint. So now imagine this building is your object, and to build an object, your Java virtual machine, that is JVM, it needs a structure or a blueprint. That blueprint is that defines your class. So basically the class defines the structure of the object. In the next slide I'll tell more about classes. So class is an internal structure or a blueprint of an object. In the previous slide I told you that class is a blueprint of an object. So, this is the basic syntax of the class. We have the class keyword here, which is followed by the class name. The class name can be anything. It can be the class car or a class dog. Inside the class we have member variables and member functions. The class will contain some member variables and member functions. These members can be accessed throughout the class or even outside the class. So what are these member variables? When we talk about member variables, it can be of a same or different data types. So it defines what type of data that is being stored. And what when coming to member functions, it allows all the operations that can be performed on these variables. So in the next slide I'll talk more about classes. So yeah, classes is nothing but collection of many objects. So classes is considered as a blueprint or a logical entity. So classes are of two types. We have predefined classes and we have user defined class. So coming to predefined class, the classes that are defined by the Java library. Yeah, so their Java library, the classes that are already defined by Java library, their role is already defined by the Java developers. So the predefined classes, we just have to use the import keyword in order to access predefined classes. So example for some predefined classes, it can be scanner, console or system, etc. Coming to user defined classes, the classes that are created by the user or it can be created by anyone in general, that are user defined classes. Now we'll talk more about the objects. What are objects? In An object is an instance of the defined class that executes the class. When class is defined, no memory space is allocated, but when the object is defined, it takes up some memory space. Yeah. So we can say that classes are user defined data types and objects are variables of the data types. In Java, we need to initialize these objects by the keyword new. So syntax for creating the objects, we have the class name and we have the object name. It is initialized with the new keyword and the class name. Here it is a constructor. This class name is a constructor here. And in the next slide, we'll talk more about the difference between the classes and objects. So class, as I told you before, class is a blueprint from which the objects are created. When coming to object, object is the instance of the class. So object is a real world entity such as chair, pen, table or laptop, etc. When coming to class, it is a group of similar objects. So object is a physical entity and class is a logical entity, and object is only created, it can be created many times as per your requirement, but class is only declared once. So object allocates memory when it's created, but class it doesn't allocate memory but when it is created. So object is created with a new keyword. So here example is employee OB. Here the new keyword is used, employee, and a class is declared using class keyword, class employee. So there are many different ways to create an object in Java. We can use the new keyword, or we can use a new instance method, or a clone method, or even deserialization. So when coming to class, there is only one way that we can define a class using the class keyword. So in the next slide, I'll tell you about the examples of classes and objects. So here let's take an example. Class. The class can be girl. Girl. Inside this class, many objects can be declared, or many objects can be used. Here the objects Faiza, Rita, Shelly, or Mary. These are objects of class girl. Same goes with the boys. So boys, class boy. So in the class there are many objects that such as George, Ken, Prasad, or Kishore. These can be considered as many objects inside one class, boy. So this is more about, again, more about the difference between the classes as well as objects. So I told you that class is a blueprint or a prototype for creating the objects, and object is nothing but the instance of this class. Next, class, we are the syntax. I told you in the previous slide the syntax. The class is a keyword, and the class name can be anything. Inside this class we have member variables and member functions. Here we use class name and object name, and we have a new keyword, and which is followed by the constructor. And this is the examples of the class and as well as objects. So class is not physically stored in memory, but as object is physically stored in the memory. Again, there is an example. This is class car. The class car, and it can have many objects like Mercedes or Benz, or even or BMW, Audi, etc. Thank you for your patience listening to the class.